candidate Trump doesn't need to know every nuance, doesn't need to know about every conversation. He is essentially the godfather.
Paul Manafort's legal problems got a lot worse yesterday. A plea deal he'd struck with special counsel Robert Mueller fell apart after Mueller accused Manafort of repeatedly lying to investigators in their case against President Trump. Now, Manafort's going back to court to be sentenced on conspiracy charges. He's facing more than a decade in jail. If that wasn't enough, The Guardian reported today that Manafort met directly with Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London in early 2016, around the time Manafort joined the Trump campaign, and a few months before WikiLeaks released stolen emails from the DNC. Both Assange and Manafort strongly deny the report. All of this has a lot of liberals and never-Trumpers frothing at the mouth. If Mueller's investigation was ever going to point to something beyond just tax fraud and obstruction of justice, to the C word, collusion, it always seemed that Manafort would be the guy who brought it home. He was the one, after all, who owed a lot of money to powerful pro-Russian oligarchs in Ukraine when he first joined the campaign. He's also the one with close ties to a man, Konstantin Kilimnik, who's suspected of having direct links to Russian intelligence. Mueller indicted Kilimnik as part of the investigation into Manafort. And it was under Manafort's watch, although he denies having anything to do with it, that the Republican Party softened anti-Russia language in the GOP convention platform. All that looks bad. But trouble for Manafort doesn't necessarily mean trouble for President Trump. I talked to Seth Waxman, a former federal prosecutor in D.C. who's worked on a lot of cases like the one Mueller is building.
This is one of the best events for Trump in the Mueller investigation that we've seen publicly in a long time. Presumably a key cooperator offering, potentially very damaging evidence, not just against the president, but potentially against his son-in-law, and others. And that person's no longer cooperating with the government as far as we know. So that is a big win for Mr. Trump.
Can you conclusively say that this means that Mueller has lost a key part of his case?
Well, conclusively is always tough, but by all accounts and from what we've seen, that Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016 seems to be a high watermark with this presumed offer of dirt on Hillary Clinton for a promise to reduce or eliminate sanctions against the Russians should they win office. You only had one person that was in the government's fold that was physically present within that meeting to tell the government what happened before, during, and after. That was Paul Manafort. He was cooperating, and that's an important piece of evidence. Now it seems to have been lost.
We know a lot about Manafort's connections with the Russians and the Ukrainians. But the real goal for Mueller, the real key thing here is, did Trump actually approve something? Did he know about a deal, a sort of quid pro quo?
Correct, absolutely. So being a bystander to a criminal conspiracy is not criminal in and of itself. So if he learned after the fact, he being the president learned after the fact and did nothing to facilitate the criminal conduct or cause it to come about, that is not a criminal charge, and it may not be an impeachable offense.
Ultimately, Mueller's goal is not just to show that Manafort has done something dirty, potentially, but that Trump was involved in it.
Yeah, I think Manafort is a footnote in all of this, and as history will judge, this is a case about the President of the United States. Anyone who thinks otherwise, I think, is being naive.